attention to this now. The death of UCT student Uyinene Mrwetyana has raised questions about how employees are screened for criminal records. The 42-year-old post office worker who confessed to raping and murdering her was convicted for hijacking and served 5 years in prison. Now, it's emerged the State Security Agency had informed the post office of his criminal past. Well, he was initially appointed in 2012 through a labor broker that didn't follow normal recruitment processes. Kirschman's Incorporated Director, Grant Wilkinson, joins us in studio to talk about this particular matter. Mr. Wilkinson, thank you very much.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Thanks for taking the time to talk to us here. Do labor broking companies screen people before they are employed?
Simply yes. I think labor broking companies have one of the best, from an industry perspective, have some of the best recruitment and methodologies out there, and also do a lot of verification checks to make certain that they don't expose their clients to risk, from criminal to credit where necessary, etc.
I was about to ask for a more detailed answer about what kind of background checks are done.
Well, usually the norm and the best practice is criminal checks, and where relevant, credit checks. They get done quite thoroughly through the relevant agencies. The reports get done, and obviously, usually, if it's relevant, it will exclude someone from appointment.
So the company in question here, of course, we don't know the name of the labor broking firm that recommended this employee to the post office. They didn't do what they were supposed to do. What kind of steps should be taken against them?
Well, you know, it's hard to discuss that without having the full facts of the matter. I think inevitably the client particularly is the one who dictates what checks are done and what checks are required on behalf of the recruitment process. But obviously, if there is some level of negligence, obviously steps could be taken, But if you look at the record of what's been said so far, a lot of it has come through in the post office time as well, where he's been dishonest twice, apparently, in these vetting processes as well. So, yeah, I think necessary recruitment steps should have been taken and verification checks should have been done.
Exactly. That declaration form that he was consistently asked to sign, he said twice that he had no criminal record.
Yeah, and he should have got to a hearing at the end of the day. Let's be honest. SAPA should have put him through a hearing in their time.
In the case, therefore, of this 42-year-old and the post office in Claremont, Cape Town, who should take responsibility between the post office and the labor broking firm in question?
Well, you know, it's hard to tell the sort of timeline involved. But at the moment, in SAPO's time, from what we can gather in news reports, 2 checks were done. They found out that this guy had a particular criminal record. And remember, you can't exclude someone just because they have a criminal record necessarily in all instances. It has to be relevant to the task at hand. There's ample discussion and law around this. I think our law is fairly quiet, but if you look at the development of case law and the current research being done, the purpose is the guy's been rehabilitated. You can't be punished for the rest of his life for something he did 20, 30 years ago. However, best practice is if there's a situation where a person potentially can expose the business to risk, you need to deal with the person accordingly. And if the chap was dishonest twice in a SAPO process, that should have led to a hearing, that should have led to his dismissal fairly quickly.
I guess the question I'm aiming at is, who should take liability if the post office is sued? Do they share the responsibility in this regard?
It's hard to tell. It's either going to be SAPO on its own or potentially both parties. But again, you'd have to look at the factual timeline of when things took place, etc., to fully comment on liability. I'd hate to sort of just guess.
Labor broking companies have been under the spotlight for a long time, particularly from trade unions. You can imagine that this particular case may possibly make their case stronger to say labor broking companies are not only negligent, but now they've actually even exposed workers at that post office to possible harm.
Yeah, I think
harboring a person who's convicted of such a serious crime.
Yeah, I think unfortunately you're going to have trade unions jumping on the bandwagon, you know, if that's the political angle they're going to go for. There's been a recent case last year, Assigned Services, that has dealt with the question of labour brokers. And let's be honest, labour brokers have best practice in place with regards to recruitment. Industry itself is renowned for having best criminal checks, best verification checks, etc. So obviously trade unions, it suits their agenda to then target labour brokers in this instance. But I'm saying, look, we have to have a factual analysis of where things went wrong, and where parties have liability, let that liability sit with that party, whoever it might be. Grant
Wilkinson, thank you very much for making the time to talk to us here.